he started writing poetry from an early age, and he did his national service in the Air Force in Siberia. And it was rough, tough. It's all macho men, the cock zone. The young boys had to give sex to all these sergeants and, these macho men. And so the sergeant told George, "What can you give us?" He said, "I can tell you stories." He said, "What sort of stories?" "Okay, tomorrow evening, tell us a story." So he sat all night and adapted Romeo and Juliet, because he was very fond of Shakespeare from an early age, and T.S. Eliot.
Okay.
So this sergeant was flabbergasted and all with the story, the way George told the story, and this sergeant took a photograph from his pocket and showed George. This girl dressed in white under a birch tree. It's my fiancée. I want to marry her. I'm in love with her. So he became very close friend to George, and so George had a good time translating, adapting Shakespeare, Macbeth, and all that. And then he was moved away. But they remained friends. To such extent that when he was the sergeant released, he was very capable of really taming even the wildest animal, this sergeant. He has Chechen prisoners and all that. But he moved in the mafia himself, instead of going and years after, when George finished his national service, he kept writing to George. And he used to call him Shakespeare. He said, "I'm not Shakespeare yet." And he invited him to a posh restaurant to meet. And he arrives with a beautiful limousine. And this girl, the white dress, was sitting in the car, dressed in fur coats and looking very sad. And then and he wanted to know what George is doing. He said, "Well, I'm planning to go to England," and then said the car was outside, people waiting for him. He said, "I want to stay longer with you, and let me see if I can." So he goes and says, "Sorry, George, I can't. I have to go." So he went, and a few minutes later, the car was blown up. And he and his wife were killed.
What?
And he said, "I was, as one of friends of George, invited to this mafia's funeral. I don't know what is, And one of the mafia, he came and says, "George, like you very much. If you need anything, get in touch with us."
So how old was George then? 25, 26, 30?
Yeah, he was national service.
So he finished the national service,
So he did
21, 23, 24?
23, 24, yes. It was before he came to London.
And how old was he when he came to England?
Well, he said about 30, 28. So the sergeant gone, another sergeant came and sent him to look after the pigs. And the person in charge of the pigs was a Chechen prisoner.
Who?
Chechen?
Chechnya. Okay.
A very big man, tough. They became friends. Meantime, George, the only friend had it was
and they're looking after the pigs.
Yes.
As part of their national service.
That's right.
Okay.
The Air Force.
Okay.
He befriended a wolf, George, and they went swimming together and became his only friend. But this Chechen, every Friday, slaughtered some pigs and sold it to the peasants and gave to peasant women in exchange for sex. So one day there was this peasant woman on the hay after he fucked her and his sperm was on her vagina, called George. George kind of fucked this woman. So if you want to be a great poet, you have to face reality. And this is reality. So George was watching, he becomes sick. Then, to his luck, the sergeant came, and a more sort of educated sergeant. He realized George was a literary man, and he made him in charge of the library.
Okay.
And there was a young librarian girl, very pretty, who fell in love with him. They would go out talking about poetry, about she and the wolf and George. But his time came to do to go back to Moscow. He finished national service, and there was George on the train, and the dog-headed girl on the platform, in tears, waving goodbye. And he said, for a minute, I asked myself, George, are you doing the right thing, leaving these people? And the train moved on.
A different chapter in life started.
That's right. And went to Moscow and he met Olga. She was, again, from a very well-off family. Her uncle was an ambassador somewhere. She was very pretty, very beautiful. And decided to come to London.
With Noskov.
She and Olga and he. So he grew up in Soviet Union where everything was free. Education, accommodation. They found a flat in Knightsbridge, very expensive area. They couldn't afford it. George didn't want to go out to work. He was a poet, a writer. So Olga had to go. So she started working in posh nightclubs. And soon she came home with lots of dresses and fur coats, and rows started. One morning, George woke up and found a little note. I'm going to kill myself, Olga. And he found her, or they found her, in River Thames.
Really?
And that, I think, started. I mean, he was drinking before, but started drinking vodka. And the grey foam, you've seen the grey foam? You haven't seen it? You've seen the grey foam. It's Olga.
Okay.
And there is the turkey again, it's Olga there, George and Olga. And they're having a row, and he starts, he actually uses his name and her name. It's Christmas. They live in this flat, freezing, no central heating, no afford to pay heating, no food. They had a bottle of vodka, and they get drunk and they He said, "You shitty man, you brought me here. My mother was right. Why did I wanted to get married to a poet, you know?" And he said, "Don't worry, Olga, I'm going to start a revolution." And what's a revolution? He said, "Okay, our landlord who lives above us, we're going to entertain him. We go outside in the snow, it's snowing, and you start dancing, and I start singing and playing music, and make him come outside the balcony and maybe invite us upstairs and have a cup of tea, and maybe give us a bit of turkey, and then gradually take over the whole thing. Huh? A revolution." So they go outside, there she's in freezing dancing, and there, you know, and this landlord appears and, "What the hell you're doing there?"
What's going on out there?
Yes. "Give us a bit of turkey." What's the name? I said, "Go, leave me alone." And they start crying, and then he comes out, "Give us," and then he eats and spits the turkey, and it falls on the ground. And then she said to him, "Is this the life we want, George?"
Starving they must have been.
Well, you see some of that.
So how do you know these stories, George? Is it because these are conversations you had with George, or these are all stories?
No, somebody told me about the story. Who knows?
Okay.
So, I mean, that somebody introduced George to me. He wrote The Grey Phone. Because she was collecting all poems written about Aphrodite, goddess Aphrodite, in any language to publish. And she asked, George was a friend of her husband, who was a painter. And he wrote this, The Grey Phone, which is, instead of a poet, it's a poetic drama in a way. And that's how I got to know him. And I did his first one, and then he started writing Turkey and the Laos, or adapting it. And then Happy Marriage, and The Meeting. And he wrote another one, Hunting, which I haven't done. He translated Pushkin and was ready to do them, but didn't happen to do all of them. He did 5 of them. He wrote lots of letters to me, interesting letters. Always, say you're the only theatre in London that put George Noskov on. And he was always say, George, we need promotion. Yes, George, I said, we need promotion, but we need money for promotion.
To promote.
So we are presenting him again to keep my promise. And also rediscovering against the powerful pen he has. He might be a lot of, definitely he's against the established writers' establishments, the system. He left Soviet Union because when he came to the capitalist system, and he doesn't like it either. It's not that what he wants. He was in a different world.
So he actually spent most of his life in London.
Well, he's
35.
30, he died 44, he's about, if he came, about 14 years.
He was 44 when he died?
Yeah.
I didn't think he was that young.
He looked
a lot
older.
older. He looked a lot
He
older.
looked older.
I didn't realize. And in terms of family, so he had a son? And the son is still resident in England?
No,
or?
he went, I think the son, after the mother's death, was taken care of by the two families, of mother and father. They both look after him. I don't know what happened to him. I know that he came to London to take the body to Russia, to Moscow. But that's all I know. Maybe we have to get in touch with him. So this is what I'm doing now, David.
Okay.
Noskov.
So what are the 5? You said you're going to
It's
put on 5 and you're going to do another marathon of 5
Yeah, now
performances.
it's a monologue. It's about a young man, Noskov, young, 18, or imagines himself or created it, who is very shy of women. He loves women, but he doesn't know how to get them. And he's so frustrated. He does all these things to impress them, and he cannot succeed.
I'm surprised you didn't yet say hello to the Pussycats.
So he has a friend, Sergey, who is very successful with girls.
Okay.
And he said, George, I'll take you to a club. We meet girls there. So they go, and all the girls run after Sergey, and George goes and sits at the bar drinking, and no girl comes towards to him. And then at the end of the night, Sergey comes with 2 blondes. George, one for you, one for me. So in the car, the girl starts kissing him, and then they go to Sergey's house, and already Sergey is in bed making love to this girl, and then she screams. We can hear her screams with joy, and George is in the bathroom with this girl, washing up, cleaning, and then go to bed making love, and by the morning he's in love with her. He wants to marry her. He goes outside and buys a bunch of flowers to offer her. He says, no, George, don't be in a hurry. He says, give me your telephone number. He says, no, I'm going to give you a ring. So he sits all day by the phone, waiting for the phone to ring. He does it. The whole week nearly passed by. By the end of the week, he receives a telephone call from Sergey. George, I got it. I got what? The louse. I'm going to see a doctor. Suddenly George felt scratching and all his body, and he's terrified, and he goes to the bathroom, he shaves, he gets rid. He lives with his mom. His mom comes. What are you doing? He said, nothing, Mom. I'm just having a bath. And he's desperate. He shares his care, and eventually goes to a doctor. And the doctor says, shame on you. You don't care if you sleep with any girl.
That's the consequences.
Right, yeah. Take this ointment, put it on, and get out. So George feels very ashamed, embarrassed, goes and sits in the streets crying, putting this ointment on him. That's his louse and a monologue. And then it's the turkey I told you. And the third is grey form. The fourth is happy marriage. You don't know that. A businessman is inviting his colleagues to celebrate his future marriage to a beautiful girl from Eastern Europe. he met her in a library, and she's so clever, she's so educated, she's so businesslike. She ran her own business in one of the Ukraine, I think, right, Soviet Union country, and he's the happiest man in the world and drinks champagne. As they're talking, a letter arrived, and one of the colleagues opens it, partners open it, and it's from the father of the girl. And he's telling him what the girl is about. He says, the girl you're going to marry, she's a prostitute, she's fucked by every citizen in our town, she's been in prison.
So over and above the meeting, this one is called what, George?
Legion.
Legion. Okay. And you said it's Noskov, and it is was it intended as autobiographical, or
yes,
just by the by it happened?
Well, all his writing is talking about himself, really. You know, have you seen any of his short
I recorded the meeting.
The meeting. Well, there he himself, George, meeting
and then
Chekhov and Dostoevsky
that's right.
in the square of London to drink vodka, and they insult each other and they leave him alone on a bench and visited by a cat, a female cat, a male cat, who says, I want to be friends with you, Noskov. You only have to provide some food for me. And they said, I can't even provide the food for myself, can't provide food for you. And then a female cat says, don't listen to this male cat, he runs after all the female cats, you know. George, I will be your wife, I will marry you and look after you, cook for you and do everything. And so she's trying to make the other cat jealous. And eventually they end each one dancing to show off, and they both embrace and run off and leave George on his own.
Well, in fact,
remember that?
I remember it, and I videotaped it, and that is actually on the web.
It is on the web?
It is actually on the web.
Oh, well.
And what's more than that, what's not on the web, is that you then introduced me to George Noskov, who came to attend one of those performances.
On a wheelchair?
And no, this was before he was on a wheelchair, because he was coming and a friend of his was doing a slideshow. And so before we went in for that, you introduced me to George, and I actually chatted to George and just recorded George sitting outside the theatre for about 20 minutes. And then we exchanged emails, and he sent me some poetry that he had written in Russian, and we were going to do other things, and then things didn't work out, and the next thing I knew, you told me he had died.
2 years ago. This is November, I think, will be the anniversary of his death.
Okay.
So maybe this is, I postponed the dates for November.
Okay.
The 12th to the 28th of November.
12th until the 28th, that's
for
a long,
2 weeks.
A long stretch.
Because I'm doing 5 plays and I want to do the same marathon with 5 of his plays one day.
George is getting to like marathon 5 plays in one day.
It was interesting, didn't you?
It was fascinating.
Yeah, and of course
it was cumulative.
Yeah.
You get into the vibes of understanding what's happening.
That's right.
More and
you
more.
understand more the story and also the writers more and the differences. And if you see Noskov's 5 short plays, I mean, it's half an hour each. So it won't be as long as the Oedipus saga, but you see, it's a strange writer.
Well, you always referred to Noskov as a good example of the theatre of the absurd.
Yes, surrealists, existentialists. He definitely has a unique, and sometimes his views. It's disturbing. One thinks that he could be anti-Semitism, because he always talks about Jewish, like some of the Russians. Pushkin, for instance, wrote a short play about a Jew who was almost like a miser, you know, and he wouldn't give his son any money, and George translated that play and he wanted me to do it. And also about the women, you know, he seems to be sexist, but he's searching for something deeper in the human existence, you know. And this Legion is almost about himself, about his experience in London, about him doing his national service in Siberia, about what makes a great writer. And he's definitely stand about against commercial success. He doesn't want to be, you know, I don't write for consumers. I write for friends. And that's why I'm frank with my friends. I write as the way I talk to my friends. Everything, I don't hide anything, my ideas, my feelings. It's me, George. I have distinguished between the ego and I. When I is not ego, a lot of writers are
projecting.
The ego is to, you know, is to impress, is to sell, is to buy it, is to get the sort of people to pay for him, for his work. My work, he said, is a different kind, is the truth of what I am, of what I feel, of what I have studied in the university and I studied literature and philosophy, and I went under the very famous professors and critical awareness. Life is a strange thing. It seems to me it exists as a movie. And it is definitely not me who wrote the screenplay. I'm placed in some situations, or whatever strange, to do something, to perform. Can I rule my life? Manage it? Hardly. How, for instance, I could imagine myself being a city businessman? If somebody told it to me only 10 years ago, I could suggest he's crazy. Life is a fatalistic screenplay and a journey. Actually a chain of events, images, situations. So where I am now. I'm afraid in a basement studio shared with two Yugoslavs. They are students studying business or computers or both. I cannot remember their names. Such a bright personalities these Yugoslavs are. What I remember is that I'm paying £35 a week for a pleasure of sharing shitty and small basement, although centrally located, with the future stars of business and computer life. They don't like me as well. They think I'm crazy. Why I waste life like that? Idiots. Their own life will be wasted, even more. After they had to pay fees for their business education, then they will be paying for petrol and for accommodation. They will, you'll see. And not only that, they will leak ash holes of those who wasted their lives. When they are at their pathetic college, I'm still in my bed. When at night they are reading their serious books, I'm in bed watching Dirty Silly. They have something to do, they have plans, I don't. What is my plan really? To become a next great writer? Is humanity, including me myself, is not tired of great writers? To age perhaps, not very gracefully, and then to die is also not an attractive idea. I'm even cynical if they ever pay me money for my literary gift. Perhaps they will not, but I'm not frustrated. Humanity don't deserve suffering. I have no job and very little of money. I'm exactly the type I always hated. A bohemian writer in London basement. It is a former George Noskov who was all elegance when in his college. It is this very aesthete who used to wear only Burberry. Now I'm wearing navy blue Burberry as well, a worn coat in traces of my sperm. I use it as my blanket. I'm thin, food is very limited, not shaven. Face it, George, how it happened to me, I don't know. Another life is cruel to me. What for? I hate suffering. I never will to make a profit or moral authority because of my troubles. I'm not a Jesus. Anybody can be in shit being 100% bastard. But what's to be done anyway? Yugoslavs are trying to communicate with me in a sense they are kind, but I hardly hear them. I lost my communication with the world. I'm a man from underground. I live on my own, I live my own way. Again, I never wanted to be in underground, but it happened. They wanted me to go underground. Possibly something about me irritates systems. I've changed two systems in the Soviet Union. Both are unhappy with me. I'm not their model, I'm afraid. That's why I live in underground, like a snake. But this Yugoslavs is unbearable torture. I don't understand why they don't understand the con. First, they will be taught some fantastic business for 4 years, and they will pay for it their own pocket money, working as shits at some Indian hotel restaurants, because professor wants to eat and to look respectable. Then they will be trying to find suitable jobs. In total, 5 years are already lost. And after that, they will gain a shitty job that will enable them to run a small place where I am already. I don't believe that they will gain a position of chief executive just after their graduation. They were promised it, but I am skeptical. After that, they will struggle for no less than 3 years to look good for their manager and for their bank to gain a mortgage. and if successful, they gain it. £200,000 for a bedroom flat. Buy now, pay later. I don't joke. That's the whole thing. It means that for another 20 years, they are to pay £700 a month for their flats. What is it? What is a half of their monthly earning? But relax. That is a half of their monthly earning. But relax. They're buying things, dishwashers, furniture. They even fuck each other sometimes. Nearly 10 years of their life is already spent. After gaining mortgage things, for a while, look out. What a happiness. You are legally paying legal fees, being perfectly legally happy. And legal bank is perfectly legally happy with you while you're tremendously legally paying your legally established fees. What's crime? Personally, I want people like Branson to be in jail. Together with presidents of Thames Water, British Gas, with all executive staff, add to my personal wish all telephone companies, banks, Indian speculators, and the rest of the world. Imagine if these personalities disappear, what a kind of deep breath we can have. All shits are in jail while I'm happy. Imagine the head of your agency publishing house under the bars to find yourself really happy. You're enjoying yourself at posh restaurant while the bastard is enjoying prison porridge. What may be more exciting? They are already in prison. These Yugoslavs, and by their free will, what I find terrible. And by their free will, what I found terrible. Why to change one prison for another one? Why to be attracted to one particular prison when there are thousands of them around? It's just a question of ideology, and ideology seems to simply a question of money. Give me £1 billion and I shall change British public opinion completely within 10 months. They will be believing absolutely different things, I guarantee. I mean, girls in sex business will become devoted housewives, and stockbrokers will become romantic poets. I just don't have $1 million to prove it. When they Yugoslavs are talking to me, all I see is shit coming from their mouths. Once or twice, they made their student parties, some unrecognizable faces. They were looking at me with a sarcasm and with an obvious air of superiority. They're young and arrogant, and they know how to live, and I'm pathetic. They have it all in their future, and I possibly had my best in the past. I'm about 30 at that time. Now I'm older, but I'm a poet. I don't have fixed time. I'm traveling in time. It's my occupation. There are about 20 Yugoslavs futurists. How to get rid of them, that is the question. But I don't know how. I know it's a trick to look pathetic, but I'm afraid it's my current case. We have nothing to talk about. For them, I'm a mad Russian writer who writes strange texts, an old loser, regular baked beans consumer. That days they were 18 pence per can. It's not a surprise that once I'm asked to take a walk when they have their guests. George, sorry, we cannot show a guy like you to our guests, it is said to me. The most stylish, proud, cynical lion who used to reject friends and women. Now, George, it's your turn to fill it. Their guess is silly students like them. But all right boys, I'm living, to say the truth. It was a torture for me to talk to their guests. I don't understand British concept of friendship. They tend to be friendly furious. All this vomiting sentimentality about the working class, while the very working class is actually middle class, hungry for money and power. They give it away to the shits. On their fours, they are bringing to Paul McCarthy and likes not only billions, but Sir titles. What the fuck is Sir this Liverpool guy is? It is as silly as if I proclaim myself a duke of something, and I want all his promoters and producers to be in prison. What a pity the weather is so cold, and I spent a couple of hours outside. I'm wearing the same old coat, not really designed for winters, and a yellow scarf that I have found in streets. I have no money to go to McDonald's, so I shall need to take a walk in the park. Oh, it's fucking freezing. The street is empty. Possibly I look like a street beggar. My nose is red. Spectacles are broken. I'm collecting cigarette ends from dirty sidewalks. And do you know where there is the right place to collect cigarette ends? Or possibly you don't. Railway stations. You just pretend it is something wrong with your boots while collecting cigarette ends. And I also recommend Jewish restaurants Rubens. Jews are smoking cigarettes with golden ring across the filter. They are laughing at me while I'm collecting their cigarette ends. I'm looking at them as well. The picture is clear. Park is empty and dark and locked. But it is my last asylum. People sitting in windows are happy and not hungry. They are in warmth and I have no meal. Fighting the Gesian poetry. I'm ashamed to walk in streets in my appearance. So George, let's cross the fence and take a walk in the night Kensington Garden. Done. Now I could find myself in such a situation. How I could find myself in such a situation? What is my hope? Who needs me? What's to be done? I'm staying in front of a small, silly Victoria monument. Victoria is looking through me with her dead wide eyes. Police is patrolling Main Road. I'm hiding myself behind the monument. The moon is full. Possibly to kill myself. Possibly to kill myself? Why not? People don't want me. It's obvious. They don't need my poetry. My music is humiliated. Instead of placing her on throne, they want her to be a waitress. Fuck poetry. All they want is their computers and business. Millions of helpful services for people, and all these parasitic people seem to be happy. Look at them, George. They seem to enjoy themselves, chewing their idiotic hamburgers and cheeseburgers. Their tragedies are soap operas as well as their love stories. They are bloody vodka. Look at them doing their idiotic shopping. They don't even understand that they are used. They are only an appendix of this sadistic society, collecting from them their hard-earned cash, but they don't care. They don't think. And if it is true, why you're so poor like Raskolnikov? Even worse, Raskolnikov had his coughing like room and an old landlady to kill. You don't have even that. Where to find an old lady to kill her? After killing her, I could have a pint of beer at the corner pub. I could pack in within 2 or 3 pages instead of writing a long novel. look at them walking their kids and dogs. You will go to your basement and they will go to their restaurants to eat their shitty meals. Then they will go to fuck their women. To say the truth, I don't want their women. Their women are silly, ugly, just like them. They all claim to be good, kind and helpful. If they're so kind and good, why this world is such a shit? It is them who have built this reality. It is them for whom this reality is really designed. I see no place for me in their idiotic reality. I never like problems. It is problems who like me. All I always wanted was stability, stable home, one woman, kids. Instead, I had these surrealist moves from place to place in search of nothing. Hundreds of accidental women, my writing, and only one kid when I wanted at least 26 of them. My dreams were different from reality, but they were great poetry. In my dreams, I was imagining myself sitting in comfortable chair in front of my comfortable manor house, reading fresh, comfortable newspaper with my comfortable eyes closed, smoking comfortable Glasgow pipe, watching my comfortable 26 kids, some girls, some boys. Some are swimming in a blue, comfortable swimming pool. Some are trying to catch local, comfortable dragonflies or to kill currently comfortable butterflies. I'm watching it with a supercilious attitude to the work. Suddenly, it was snowfall. Fuck. In addition to freeze, how to survive it? Fucking life. Snowflakes were flying in darkness, quietly, melancholically. I lifted my face to street lamps, and the next day it was Saturday. I was buying a Portobello, an old typewriter, for £10. For me, it was a huge amount of money. I had bought a fine American typewriter made in 1913, but it can write. Just look how it can write. What a fine writing I'm producing. What is to be a professional writer? It means having a shitting agent to begin with. Then it means to have a shitty lawyer and a shitting accountant. That is writing at the time, I'm afraid. After that, it means having shitty publisher publishing shitty books. It also means being in presence of some shitty conferences discussing silly matters, and I don't even talk about the necessity to smile from all these shitty pages of books and mags to stimulate sales. Why I need to feel all these people then? Look what this agent really produces. I'm a writer. I'm producing text. They say bad. I say bad but great. After such a successful career, you're dead. And if lucky, they place in Shitty Observer a silly note how actually good you was while alive. Nobody needed this typewriter. Nobody believed it can write, but it can. Literature is alive. Look yourself. This black and gold monster is my only friend at the moment. I'm stealing paper from Yugoslav students when they are studying computers and businesses at the idiotic college, claiming in its prospects to be important and leading to skills and happy employment. I'm writing. What about? About flying snow, I believe. About life, perhaps. And I write great text right now. I show you it. I shall name this writing Legion, and it will be one of my best writing. So George, my only friend, let's start. After all, George, You are a Russian writer. Demonstrate quality. This writing will be of highest quality, like caviar or Russian vodka or ballet. Watch it yourself then. We are heating the room only 2 hours a day. We are poor, but George, it is you who wanted this life, so don't complain. Let's start Legion.
I can see that there are different bits that he's written at different times and the subject changes totally.
And then he started writing about this. I mean, it's a very daring. I mean, I don't know if his relatives are willing to publish this, you know, and give permission.
Excuse me, George, it was a phone call from home.
That's right. Imam Sete.